Way. We got a short, punchy episode today. Nate and I are here in the studio, and we're just going to be talking about how to stay on track this winter. It's coming up. It's normally the time those mornings get darker, those mornings get colder. Your bed just seems to feel that little bit warmer when you're trying to get up and out of bed, ready to go to the gym. And it's a lot of the time where you see a lot of people there. Maybe they don't drop off the wagon consistently, but they just drop down. They stop turning up as often as they were. They feel like they don't quite get the results that they're after because they know they're not showing up how they want to be. So let's quickly touch base. Nace, I want you to roll through like what's the main things that you see popping up. Like you talk to a lot of our clients in this stage in our strategy sessions. What do we hear popping up in this way here? And then after that, we'll dive into like what's the strategies that we actually use with people to go through from there.
I think the main thing that pops up for people that aren't engaged in the processes or the habits they know they need to sustain in winter, it's probably a lack of clarity, Jake, a lot of the time. A lack of clarity, and they just need, whether it's a reminder or they might need a refresh on goal setting, except let's be honest, like you need a reason to turn up. If you don't have your underlying reason and motivator, or if you'd like to call it your why, then you're going to negotiate things when it gets hard. And like Jacob just said before, it does get harder in winter. Like it's less time the sun is up. You're generally less motivated overall. So it becomes, I guess, easier to negotiate things, but you need to be careful what you negotiate, because once you negotiate something once or twice, it gets so diluted as a standard that you just don't even negotiate it anymore because you just don't do it. And I think we've all had habits in our life that you've wanted to keep and you didn't. And when you think back to it, you think, when did I make it a negotiation? And then when did it just drop off as a standard? So I think through the winter process, I think if someone lacks clarity and direction, then they're susceptible to having that winter slowdown. And there's ways that you can not be that, and we're going to chat about that today.
Yeah, I think you're 100% there, and I think it comes into when we talk about this and accountability and really the motivation. Like it kind of comes into three key things that we always cover. So the first one of that is knowing why you're doing it, having that reason, having that North Star or the goal to work towards. Yeah. That's going to give you, it's got to be meaningful.
Yeah, I think it's important to touch on a bit as well, Jake. And I know this is a punchy one and we want to give some actionable items that people can take away and utilize, of course. But I think that like knowing your why almost had a stage where it was a little bit overutilized and it may have diluted the power. But, and I'm sure you're going to touch on this in a second, you have to. You can't not have that. And the why could be something you're moving away from, or it could be something you're moving towards, but it has to have depth and purpose or you'll just negotiate it. And I've worked with so many people. If you don't have it, straight away something comes up. Good luck staying on track.
And I think I'd add to that there as well as like, it's knowing the why, but sometimes, particularly in these times like winter, where if you feel like you're a fair bit away from that why, like that you're not going to be there in 3 months, then when it's tough in that when the mornings are cold, it's easy to just go, well, I'm that far away anyway. It's not going to cost that much. Like it's not going to feel that much different if I just push it back a little bit. Like, and that's where it's easy to negotiate there. So, I guess one of the things that I always used to do, and I try to look back as like what's worked for me in these stages, what's worked for clients. I normally try to put something that's along there, like a milestone that's not too far away. Then it's like, well, I've got to work hard because this thing's in front of me here, and it leads to the person that I want to come. Oh yeah, like I hadn't even thought about that for this year, but that's like you look at us where we got High Rocks doubles coming up pretty soon. We're both attempting. Are we both attempting the marathon? I'm going
to do my absolute best, Jacob.
Yeah. We're both attempting the marathon. We'll see if we both finish the marathon. But we've got a marathon in August that we're taking on out at Mudgee. The whole team's going out, which is super exciting.
Yeah, I'm pumped
to jump out there. And those are just little things that it's like, at the end of the day, like what's the big meaningful thing? Like I don't really care about doing the marathon, but what I do care about is showing up and showing my kids that I can take on challenges, that I can go and I want them to see that being normal for their dad, that adult life is okay. You're still going to be getting after it and trying to do your best and trying to do something you haven't done before and evolving as a person. The marathon is just a means to that. Yeah. It's another way that I can like, all right, cool. Where's dad this morning? Oh, he's out on a 3-hour run this morning. Like, that was 2 hours 15 on the weekend. Jesus.
Thanks, Claire.
Thanks, Claire. But I guess like that's the first thing is about putting a milestone there that is then something that leads to the person that you want to become, to have the things that you want to be able to do, is because the big goal by itself might seem unachievable in that time scale, which means that sometimes it just pushes you back and go, well, I'm that far away from it. I need to just, it's okay if I slow down.
Yeah.
And then that just gives you not an excuse, but like whether it's excuse or a reason, it negotiates it, as you said. Yeah. And then from there you can go, well, okay, well I can hold this off a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And all of a sudden it can be next winter and you're still on the same track again.
Exactly.
And it's too easy to happen. Like it happens, it happens to everybody, not just, I
think that's funny. And people will talk a lot about like, oh, you have like a lot of rigidity around like training at 4 a.m. and doing those things. It's like, why don't you just do this or do that? And I think they lose one. I genuinely just don't want to have to sacrifice other times of doing things I love also. That's a big part. But also like if I negotiated this morning and didn't go, then every time that I go to do that again, it's going to be a little bit easier to negotiate it. So the rigidity is in that it's actually non-negotiable. Like, and I mean that in every sense of the word. And that's what creates the habits. And then that's really what drives first. But I think to wrap back around to what you said and continually make this valuable and have things that are actionable, mini milestones is probably what I took away from what you said there, Jake.
Yeah, 100%. And I think going from there, like if you've got a milestone in place, like the second thing you need is accountability, like in some way. And like we're traditionally as people way more accountable to somebody else than we are to ourselves.
Yeah.
It's too easy to put yourself last. We're going to have episodes coming up of talking about like strong mums and the work that we do with the mums there. We got Jess coming in to talk about that. But when you look at those things there, like you see mums, parents in general, it's like it's always what's your kids need over yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if they need you to stay back and do something or like and not go to the gym, then you'll do that. And sometimes that's completely reasonable in a lot of cases there, and you can't avoid that as a parent. But when it comes down to something like this, is like it's really important to then go, okay, how can I create that same layer of accountability to somebody else?
Yeah, I think with the accountability, Jake, there's different levels of that and different ways it can be done. But I think when you have the depth and the understanding of what you're doing, or why you're doing it, like we spoke about before, and the person that's holding you accountable understands that driver and that meaning, then it obviously has more punch to it when you are being held accountable. But then also out of that, I think as simple as a reminder, it's like you saying yes to this is saying no to X, Y, and Z, or you saying no to that is saying yes to those opposite things. And I think that is a reminder, and to put it into a bit of perspective, like with the kids, it is hard and you do have to be there for them. You can't be absent, obviously, except sometimes we say yes to things that if you zoom out far enough, like it might not be the best decision for them. Like if it's you always sacrificing yourself and it's something as simple as you stay home because they want you to, but then they end up just doing, I don't know, say they watch their favorite show and you end up doing emails anyway. It's like you saying yes to that is saying no to you looking after yourself to make sure you can be there when they need you as the leader that you think that they deserve. And I know that takes, it's a lot deeper than just training, but essentially you looking at it in that sense will help you stay consistent. And it's like, what are you being held accountable to? Like, are you being held accountable that you want to lose 5 kilos in 5 weeks? Or are you being held accountable to you showing up at the person you said you want to be? And then we hold you to that standard where it's like, this is who you said you want to be. We understand it's not going to be easy, except we're here in your corner because we believe in you and we know that you can do it, and this is what has to happen. So I think accountability can be a lot of different things, but accountability with depth and belief is
I think it's really important. Like when you've got the accountability to someone, is one, there's rapport there in that relationship. You've got to have a strong relationship enough to the way you don't want to let that person down. You don't want to get that message, man, like, hey bro, you said you were going to do this thing, and I know that it's important for you to get to that marathon, and to do that right now, how you're showing up isn't going to get you there. Mm-hmm. You don't want that message. You don't want that phone call, and you don't, or worse, if they make you sit down and do it. So you've got to have somebody that you do not want to let down in that case there. And that's what your coach is there to stand for. And that's where that's very important in that coach and client relationship, is that then obviously you want to have friendships there, but you also want to be able to still be that authority there that's important, so that the person doesn't want to let you down in that case there. And a lot of that is because of the time and effort that you put into that person and how much you believe in them. And the second
100%.
layer of people that you need to have accountability to is like, I feel like there's something that when we play sports that you have is like, you don't want to let down your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to let down the people that you train with, that you're around on a day-to-day basis. And that's where you would not go to the snow for the weekend because you knew there was a big game on. You could make sure you were there for the team. Like, I don't do holidays in season because that's too important for me to be there for my teammates. And that's something that a lot of us lose after sports. Like, a lot of us, particularly in guys, like, you go through this phase where you're the athlete and you were able to, like, you turned up, you did the extra training sessions, you did all these things. But they don't realize then afterwards when they then they leave sport, they get a job, and then they're like, why can't I train anymore? Like, I don't feel like the athlete. They then maybe put on a few kilos, they don't feel fit anymore, and then they just don't know why they can't click anymore. And a lot of the time that comes into these three things that we're talking about now is beforehand, they wanted to go to grand finals with their teammates. They wanted to be successful as a team. They had a coach they didn't want to let down. They had a coach that they knew believed in them and cared about them. So it was like, well, when they tell me to go and do that hill sprint, I'm going to give it my all because I know that they're doing it because they're asking me to do this because they want it for me and they want the end result for me.
Yeah, I think something to touch on there, Jake, is I think the perspective around that too is like, you just probably need to identify who your team is now, whether that's people you're training with. Like, for me, it's my family. It's like, what is the vision, what is the goal, and how are we communicating that, and make sure we're moving towards that together. And you're in that circle as well, like, and we have that, and that's this, and that's Newstrength. It's like, where are we headed, and how are we getting there? And that's the team. That's, I guess, what you referred to, the grand final is that goal, and you don't want to let them people down. Or I think sometimes in those circumstances, you're 100% correct, they lose that, except I think they don't realize it's, for most people, it's still around them. They're probably just not communicating it. Probably not communicating to their family or their spouse or their friend circle, like, this is actually what I want and this is what I want with my life, and have a conversation of depth, and I want you to help me move there or move there with me, essentially. And then they do have that level of accountability, but it's just, I think, changing the thought process and the perspective on that.
100%. And I think the other piece, if you don't have it, make it. Like, you know, what's been one of the best things inside of the gym in the past 6 months is seeing the mini communities of, like, the guys in each class that are holding each other accountable, and they're treating it
group chats
that way.
We're not in.
Yeah, we're always like, there's generally, it's a red flag when, you know, you're excluded from these group chats, but a lot of the time it's just the boys are sitting there being like, oh, who's in tomorrow? We can't, we're big session, we're ready to rip in, and then they're making sure that everyone turns up and stays on track there. And I think if you don't have a layer of that there, and you're finding it hard to keep on track again, then it's just figuring out which one of those things is missing. Are you missing are you missing the team to get around? Are you missing, whether that's, as you said, of like finding the team that's supporting you, whether it's outside of the actual session itself or training in a group? Like, I know that's what one of the things, like, when we chat about our Sunday morning runs in the lead up, and we start at 5 a.m. And the only thing that gets me out of bed to start at 5 a.m. is the fact that we've all told everyone that we're going to be there. And I'm not going to send anyone a message, or one, I'm not going to sleep in and not send a message. But two, if I'm there, I'm not going to be the guy that sends a message at 10 minutes to me like, oh, sorry guys, not going to come along today. So I'm going to be there because I told everyone that I was going to be there.
Yeah.
And the amount of times, like, when I don't join you as often at the 4 a.m. as what's yourself goes up, but if I say I'm going to be there at 4 a.m.,
you're there at 4 a.m.
There at 4 a.m. It's because I'm not gonna ditch the boys on it. Even the mornings, I know there was a couple of mornings where it was going to be just Byron and Trent, and then I woke up and I'm like, I'm so tired. Nate's not going to be there though. All right, I better go. Yeah. And as much as that couple of minutes, it was like just feeling like it'd just be so much nicer to stay in bed for another 2 hours here. Yeah. And I can get on with the rest of the day and still be a successful day. I've got time to train later on. The fact that I told those guys that I was going to be there made sure that I was there.
100%.
So I think you've got to have that there, and then the other layer is having somebody that you don't want to let down from an authority standpoint. Whether that's somebody's writing your program, or whether that's for some people that's just their spouse, somebody that they know this is where it is, and helping you define maybe what that future is, what that goal is, and where you want to get towards, so that you can work towards it there. And I think the trio is really where the magic is. If you can get all three, it's going to be a lot easier to stay on track.
Definitely. So we've got our essentially our mini goals along the way. And then we have our multifaceted accountability, so that 3-tiered approach. And then we had one more thing. What are you going to touch on?
I think the last thing is, I guess when you look at those there, like we've obviously got both of those pieces there. Like you've got the accountability layers with other people. You've got the mini goals. The next thing is just falling in love with it and doing stuff that you're enjoying and excited about doing.
Yeah.
Like the hard thing for a lot of people is they're not necessarily excited about it. Like if you've got things that you're excited to turn up and show up and do, you'll make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big part of that is sometimes it's a change. Sometimes it's just being able to put those other pieces in place so that you feel some momentum and you get rolling with it. If you can get some momentum again, it's easy to fall in love with something when you see yourself winning.
Yeah.
But it's hard to win when you're falling off the wagon, and you have to force that change. And that's where those other pieces there are really valuable to kickstart the momentum, because it's really valuable or it's really easy to be loving something when you feel like you're doing good at it. I think that's us to wrap up on. I think this is a good way to punch it out.
Let's wrap it up and do the 3 takeaways.
Yeah.
Short and fast.
Give yourself a mini goal. 1,
Yep.
Make sure you've got multi-layer accountability. 2,
Yep.
And 3, fall in love with the process.
100%. 100%.
That's us for this week, guys. We'll see you next time.